Welcome to another episode of Southern Arizona's nonprofits, the superheroes impacting our community. We're broadcasting live today on the Tucson Business Channel, a division of Mark Bishop Media, from the Stewart Title corporate offices on Broadway in Tucson. And this show is brought to you by SCIP, SSCIP, the Social Service Contractors Indemnity Pool, ensuring profits like ours for more than 3.5 decades. I'm Barbara McClure, Executive Director of Impact to Southern Arizona, host of this show, and with me today are two nonprofit leaders, both providing meals to people in our community, but also doing much more to help people who get stuck, help them get ahead, both helping individuals re-entering the social system and nonprofits that want to grow and do more. So please join me in welcoming Jeff Grobe, the Executive Director of Coyote TaskForce.
Thank you, Barbara. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. Welcome. And Jennifer Tersigni, the Interim Executive Director of Mobile Meals of Southern Arizona.
Thanks so much, Barbara. Glad to be here as well.
You're welcome. I'm so glad you're both here because I know you do a lot about food in our community. And that's something people are really focused on at the end of the year. We know as a food bank, people think about people who are hungry when we're all out celebrating the holidays and other people aren't. Mm-hmm. But I think the food programs that you're offering, both of you, are pretty fun, and I don't think that the community is familiar with them. And on that note, I'm going to start with you, Jeff, because I had not heard of Café 54 until recently.
Yeah.
And Impact needed to find someone to do some catering for our volunteer appreciation event. So my husband and I ordered some appetizers from your catering side, and then we ended up having them at a neighborhood gathering, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, where did this food come from? I say it's the best kept secret. So I thought maybe you could tell our listeners, what is Café 54?
Sure, thank you. Café 54, it's a restaurant in downtown Tucson. Serves lunch mostly to downtown professionals, anybody that's down there, from 11 to 2, Monday through Friday. And then, similar to what you're talking about, we do a lot of catering events. We'll do everything from, a business lunch to weddings. We've done everything in between. Chef Kevin is the one that's responsible for the great food. He'll definitely take your compliment. He's pretty amazing. And I always say it's some of the best food you can get for the best prices in Tucson. But more than that, it's a social services organization, right? We provide employment training to individuals who are in recovery from mental illness and or substance use. And it's trying to help people to learn transferable job skills, really, right? So it might be restaurant specific, it might be prepping in the kitchen, or it might be working the POS up front. But a lot of it's just customer service skills or hygiene or showing up on time, or those things that can help people get that job. And we work with a lot of people that have never worked before or haven't worked in like 10 or 15 years. And so they just need that supporting help along the way. Usually they're in the program for about 3 months before we get them ready, and then we're actually helping them find jobs out in the community.
Very nice. Well, that's a lot of turnover in a restaurant as well, if they're there for 3 months and then move on.
Certainly it is. They're trainees is what we call them. So we have our professional staff, and those individuals are there, for the most part. We lose some, we get some new ones, but the trainees, yes, they come and go pretty quickly, and we like that, actually. We want them to get jobs in the community, so sometimes they'll only be with us for a month before they've found some other job that's right for them, and that's what we want. We want them to go into jobs that might last a lifetime for them.
That is neat. I think Impact has a program where we help people get skills, develop skills for new careers, so we put people through training at PIMA.
Yeah.
And so we recognize how important that is, and when we had the Café 54 food at our volunteer lunch and all of our volunteers. We have about 170 a week, and they were so excited at the idea that it was not just a general catering, but it was a nonprofit that helped people in those situations. So I think you might have gotten some orders from some of those people.
I certainly hope so.
That and the folks in the neighborhood, because that was really fun. And I would just tell people you should really check out the website and look up. I'm going to read to you a couple of things on the hors d'oeuvre menu that we tried. And one was there were meatballs in a blend. It was of beef and pork, but it had this homemade Bing cherry barbecue sauce that was absolutely amazing. I think that was the crowd favorite at both of the events. And then these champignon tartlets, buttery tartlets filled with sautéed mushrooms, caramelized onion, herb goat cheese, and roasted garlic. And those were the other big hit.
Oh, and it's just delicious food across the board, whether it's that or it's the menu in the cafe, the day-to-day menu. I eat there every day, right? It's just amazing food.
Lucky you. Yeah. I have not been to the cafe yet, but my husband and I are going to try it over these holiday weekends. So, or I guess if it's not only open on the weekday.
Yeah, and so it's got to be catering
that.
if it's going to be the weekend. But otherwise, yeah, come down during the weekday, have lunch, and it's just an amazing environment too. You'll see when you walk in the door, there's there's artwork on the walls, and all that artwork is done by our trainees or by members. They get the art supplies provided by us for free. The tips actually go towards that. If you are tipping your server, that all goes towards art supplies. They then put that art on the wall and they can sell that, right? So we usually sell 1 or 2 art pieces per week, and all of that money goes directly back to the artist.
Oh, that's good to know too.
Yeah.
We always love restaurants that have artwork up for sale, so.
And some beautiful pieces.
We'll come with our wallets.
There you go.
A full wallet.
Yeah.
I think it's so cool, and I know you do so much more than just the food programming part, but I thought I would bump over to Jennifer and talk about mobile meals, because Jennifer, you've been the interim CEO there for a while now.
And I have. I've been there most of this year, and actually this is my second stint as the interim CEO at Mobile Meals.
Sure. And so you were there in the construction and the whole coming together of the new commercial kitchen. And so I thought you could tell us about that and what that experience was like, because we opened a commercial kitchen years ago, and it's not an easy thing to do. It's not a quick thing to do.
It's definitely a lot of work. I feel honored that I was able to help step in when the last CEO was unable to, needed some time off. And so that really included finishing the capital project, getting the licensure, opening the kitchen, finishing the capital campaign. And so we opened the kitchen in July of 2023, and we began to migrate a number of our former facilities that had produced our food to the new kitchen. So we migrated 6 of our former partners and began sourcing out of the kitchen. By the end of August, those 6 had migrated and we were fully operational. So it's really only been a few months, but we're really excited about it. And just last month, we were able to launch a couple new aspects of our service that were part of the promise of opening the kitchen. So first, in addition to being able to choose a diet, people now have meal choice. They can order online. So if you want to sign up, we've made intake super simple, or enrollment super simple, almost like any other type of meal service enrollment online. You go to our website, you choose the type of diet that you want, because we do produce regular diets as well as special diet meals. And then folks can choose from 3 menu choices per day. They can now choose as much quantity as they want, and they can choose delivery 1 to 5 days a week. In our old model, everyone got 2 meals a day, usually 5 days a week. You could get 3 days a week or 5 days a week. Where now it gives clients a lot more choice as to what they eat, what types of diets they want, and when they want meals. Because they can buy more quantity, now they can buy for extra days. So holidays, weekends, extra meals during the day. And within 2 days of launching, we already saw that was happening. A lot of times we talk about services like Café 54 and Mobile Meals offering improved socialization, reducing isolation, right, helping with wellness and social determinants of health and mental health and so forth. But it's interesting to see how it actually plays out. So within the first week, we noticed that some people were buying more quantity, which is great.
Sure.
And, we knew that would help, but we didn't, there's always, people are unique, right? And everybody thinks of a different way to get their needs met. And so, right off the bat, we saw that 1 or 2 people, they were buying a few more meals so that they would have them for their caregivers or for when a friend could come by, where prior to that, they didn't feel like they could host a friend. So that was really a surprising and very lovely byproduct that we saw right off the bat after making some of those changes. We also do we offer our services at a flat fee, which makes it really easy for people to plan as well.
It is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. It just kind of normalizes the food ordering process.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Now, do you find you do a lot of service mostly to seniors, or are you doing, now it's open to the public, so anybody can buy meals from Mobile Meals?
Anybody can. I would say that's the way it's been, but because we operated differently and through more of a social service intake process years ago, as did most food serving organizations, it was a bit more limiting. But now people can go online. The bulk of folks we do serve continue to be seniors, people living with disabilities. But really what we also see is that folks utilize services like ours to help meet their basic needs, help stretch a dollar, if you will, right? So folks can certainly go to our website and sign up. We do serve most of Pima County. There are a few areas where we don't provide direct service right now, but most of the city of Tucson, Vail, Green Valley, Sarita, the rural areas of the west side, the southwest side, the southeast side, all of that, we're there and serving.
Nice. And soon the northwest side, because Impact is joining.
We can't
partnering.
wait.
Yeah. So we've been talking about this for a long time and taken a tour of the kitchen while it was in progress. So it's very exciting. I was thinking about that. I was asking about the seniors because I think for some seniors, that whole computer and internet is such a challenging thing. But I was on and it looked like it was pretty simple to order.
Yeah. One of the things that we have found is that it is... certainly there are some people who don't have access, and we do have a workaround for that. But by and large, we still have these stereotypes of older people not in utilizing technology and so forth. And we found that that's really just not the case. That some people may prefer to write a check, but at the end of the day, most of the commerce in the United States is very dependent on cell phones, internet, computers, and people are very used to paying bills online and signing up for services online these days. So the big thing is trying to get people to think about who do they know who might be able to help them if they aren't confident. And that's where we really spend some time talking to folks and getting them to think about, do you have a neighbor? Do you have a niece? Do you have a nephew? Do you have a daughter who can help, and so forth? And for most people, that's really all they need, is to figure out who might be able to help them. And of course, we stand ready to if needed.
Yeah, that's neat. I think my husband has this woman that he interacts with, and she's 91. Mm-hmm. So, at first he was like, okay, well, how do we best get a hold of you? And she said, well, do you want my cell phone or my home phone?
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, you've got a cell phone. Mm-hmm. And then something about, I think it was a debate going on about receiving cable for television or dish or something like that. Mm-hmm. And so she was like, oh, no, I use the internet. I stream all my TV. Mm-hmm. Jeff was like, oh my gosh. Who knew?
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it is, I think, just, to find somebody who's that age and utilizing it that easily.
Yeah.
But
we're excited about the opportunity for folks to be able to access our services and to really reduce barriers to participation. If you're someone who has an older child, an adult child who lives in the home, they have a disability, you've cared for them your whole life, you have 4 people living in the home, we want you to feel like if you need respite or if you have a caregiver, you can order 2 or 3 meals and it's okay.
Sure.
The sort of old model where only one person can have a meal and there's 4 in the house sort of doesn't really make a lot of sense. So, we're part of why we've liberalized that is to be able to serve as many people as possible, make it easier for folks.
And it's still so affordable. Mm-hmm. So that's very nice.
Yeah.
Well, we're excited. I know Impact's excited to get some food delivered, and we just have to, get through the holidays, and then January's right around the corner, and we will be your next partner.
All right. That's wonderful. We're really looking forward to it.
It'll be fun. We've been members of or involved with Mobile Meals because we've been part of a same group, a neighborhood coalition organization for decades. So it's very fun. How old is Mobile Meals? Do you know?
I do. So we incorporated in 1970, but we started as a project of another organization in 1968.
Sure.
Yep.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
I think it's been around so long. It's a lot of meals served.
It's a lot of meals. We serve about 110,000 a year. Mm-hmm. So multiply that times 50.
Yeah, that's
54.
A lot of
54
people.
years.
A lot of people fed for sure. Very nice. Well, Jeff, I wanted to come back to you too, and even though you have Café 54 and you're doing all of that, which is so impressive, what are some of the other things you'd like to share about Coyote TaskForce and the other things you're doing that maybe aren't food related?
Sure. So, Coyote TaskForce oversees Café 54, but also our Place Clubhouse, which is right next door. It's all in one building, but it's really more of a social support. It's still work focused. It's a place where people can go and feel part of a community, but also kind of feel compelled to work. Everything that we do is work related. We believe that recovery is possible for everybody. And then one of the big things that we believe in is that employment helps with that, right? That employment really kind of pushes people towards recovery because it gives them something meaningful to do. But some people just aren't ready for that yet. And so they might not be ready for the cafe, for the actual work. They might come over to the clubhouse instead. And in the clubhouse, they can volunteer. They can just hang out if they're not ready to work. But it's a place where essentially the members run the whole show. They cook the breakfast. They cook the lunch. They operate our thrift store that's on the corner, Rethreads, which has some just great fashion for really reasonable prices. They answer the phones. They take messages. They pay our bills, right? They're the ones signing the checks for the bills for the clubhouse. But all of that gives them a sense of purpose and meaning as they're going through recovery, and that really helps. And then a lot of folks go from there and say, I can do this. I can work. I can help. I can do all these things. Maybe I should actually explore work, and they might move over to the cafe. But there's been people that have been in the clubhouse for, 20 years almost. They are, there's one there that jokes every single day that he's the executive director and I just work for him, and that's probably true. But it's just an amazing space where people come together, support each other through recovery and through their recovery efforts.
So is it open to the public, or how do people become members of the clubhouse?
Yeah, so it's a referral process. Everybody needs to have some sort of diagnosis of either mental health or substance use disorder, and they're usually referred by their psychologist or case manager, depending on where they're coming from. Once a member, always a member is kind of our motto. So as soon as they've been referred, and as long as they're appropriate for it, as long as they want to be there, they'll always be welcomed back. So they can leave for 5 years, they can leave for 10 years, and if they show up on our doorstep, we're going to welcome them right in.
So when you call it a clubhouse, I'm curious if you could paint a picture for our listeners when you say people can drop in. So you mentioned earlier, I think, that it was next door to Café 54, so you're downtown?
Yeah, so it's downtown. It's a fairly large building. We have several different units that people can essentially work in. So when you walk in the door, there's a lobby. You'll usually be greeted by a member who will check you in. There's also somebody right there answering phones in the reception area. And then as you walk back, there's different units like our membership office where our members are doing things like creating a newsletter for all of the members. And we usually have about 300 active members at any time. Usually only maybe 30 to 50 will show up on any given day, but we have that many that are active in the program at one time. But then you might find some members in the kitchen on the clubhouse side helping to prepare the meals. And we have a chef on that side too who's helping with that process, but we always work alongside of the members. The members are really doing everything themselves as much as possible, and we're just working alongside. And I should point out the clubhouse, it is actually an evidence-based international model for peer support and for recovery. It was actually first developed in New York, and there's clubhouses around the world. They all have the same standards set for how we provide services, how we provide support, but it's a pretty standard process or a standard kind of setup.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. And I didn't realize it was a a model all around the country. That's cool.
Yeah, you can find them anywhere. And there's a lot of natural supports that happen. So, I could actually go on a retreat to another clubhouse and learn from the executive director in a clubhouse in Kansas or Florida or in Australia. We kind of have this learning community that exists. And also a bunch of mutual support through those clubhouses. So if we know that there was a natural disaster in a location, we'll reach out to that clubhouse and say, how can we help? A lot of times what we'll do is just take our proceeds from Rethreads, from the thrift store for a day or for a week, and donate it to whatever recovery efforts are happening near that clubhouse or to that clubhouse if they need it.
Yeah, that's a very cool partnership, or to be part of something that's even larger.
Yeah, it's this community. We have a really, really tiny community. We always talk about this. It's our little community inside of a larger community, inside of an even larger community, right? And it just keeps on expanding. But it gives people that purpose. And that purpose can be very, very small. It can be, I'm just going to be here today for myself or for my one friend that I want to be here for, or I can be here for all of Tucson or for the clubhouse across the country.
Sure, that's pretty cool. So when you're talking about the gentleman, excuse me, who's been there a long time, what is the average time people are with you, do you think?
That's a hard one. That's a really good question. I think it's very dependent. We have some folks who only come in because they need one thing, and they may only stay for a month or 2 months. They just need a little bit of support to get back to where they were before. Most of the time, though, people stay for a while. If it's the right fit for them, they know it, and they've stayed for a year, 2, 3 years. We have a lot of members on any given day that have been there longer than I have. I've been there for 4 years. I would say if I went back to the clubhouse right now, most people have been members longer than I have.
Yeah, that's neat. Well, thank you for what you do.
Oh, thank you.
I think there's also some job training. Do you do job training through that as well?
Yeah, it's on both sides. So, for instance, the thrift store is a place where people can learn customer service and retail. They can work in the kitchen and learn the, culinary skills there. Again, we call it a work-focused community because there's no pressure for people to work like there is in the cafe, where that's a training program. It's more formal. People have to participate if they want to be in that program. They're paid for their work on that side. On the clubhouse, it's volunteer-based. So, a member may decide that day, I want to work in the kitchen. And we say, sure, come on in. We'll walk through whatever it is we're working on, whatever recipe. We'll teach you to read a recipe, to, whatever it is, prep the, dice, things like that. Or it could be, I want to work the register today. Okay, well, let's talk you through what the register looks like and what that's going to be. And then we'll just let them go, and we'll just kind of stand behind them or beside them. And if they run into trouble, we're there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. That's a neat thing to have in the community.
One of the things that I love about Café 54 is that you're one of the first organizations in Tucson, I think, to really take a social entrepreneurism model to building a nonprofit and running a nonprofit really long before other people were using those buzzwords.
Yeah.
And I think that's really special and unique about what you do and how the organization operates.
Yeah, and a lot of that credit obviously goes to the founder, Mindy Bernstein, who's on the board now and is my mentor and provides a bunch of support to me. But, it's that opportunity to serve the community and also serve our members, right? Mm-hmm. It's that dual push there. And a big part for us is also just that one of our values and one of our goals is around destigmatizing mental illness. Mm-hmm. And that, the restaurant, every single meal that we serve is an opportunity to do that, to have a conversation about what mental illness is and what recovery is and how it is, and how it doesn't have to be something that's hidden in the dark corners, right? It's something that we can just have conversations around, and we can have support, and we can ask people if they need help, and we can ask for help if we need it.
And how long ago was this started? Do you know?
The cafe started in 2004.
Oh, okay.
So it's been around for almost 20 years. The clubhouse started in 92. So it's 31, almost 32 years.
Yeah, that is pretty progressive. I'm so aware these days how mental illness is just a general topic of conversation. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the stigma has kind of left, which is nice.
Yeah, we've come a long way in a short amount of time.
Yeah. Hooray. And we have a long way to go still.
Yep.
We're going to take this opportunity for a quick break to listen to the message from Skip.
Today's program is brought to you by Skip, the social service contractors indemnity pool. Skip is a member-owned, member-directed insurance provider with more than 3 decades of insuring Arizona social service organizations for their property, general and professional liability, and auto claim exposures. With an Arizona-based staff of claim underwriting and risk management professionals, Skip specializes in providing personalized service, affordable premiums, and coverage which meets and often exceeds the state of Arizona's contract requirements for social service providers. For more information, visit our website at www.sscip.org or ask your insurance agent about protecting your organization with insurance coverage through Skip.
Welcome back. This is Southern Arizona's nonprofit superheroes impacting the community, and I'm here with Jeff Grobe from Coyote TaskForce and also Jennifer Tersigni, who's here representing Mobile Meals of Southern Arizona, but also has a consulting firm of her own. And so I'm glad you're here to hear about all these different things going on today. And I wanted to ask you, Jennifer, I was going to ask you how you came to Mobile Meals as the interim CEO. And so maybe you can talk about that a little bit. And I know you've had a relationship with them for a long time, as you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. So, as you mentioned, I own and operate a consulting firm called Raise the Bar Consulting. And in 2024, we're moving into our 15th year of service.
Nice.
Yeah, and so we offer full service fundraising, organizational development, and transitional leadership solutions, mainly for nonprofits, though we have also served coalitions, government entities, small businesses, especially rural small businesses. And so a lot of our referrals are by word of mouth. Years ago, someone from Mobile Meals reached out. At that time, they had an executive who departed, and they were looking for interim solutions. Interim executive solutions are they're a wonderful opportunity, I think, for an organization to really press pause and think about what do they want for their future. And there are always times where, some organizations are in distress and they might call or there's an emergency situation, right? But then others will use it in a very strategic and intentioned way. And so at that time, Mobile Meals had reached out and I had served initially. We ended up, of course, accidentally leading them through COVID and the pandemic.
Oh, gosh, when the whole world kind of paused. Sure.
And we didn't skip a beat. We were at work every single day serving, providing those routes. We didn't miss a route, didn't miss a day. And then when we emerged enough, it was the right time to run a search, and we hired a CEO and provided some transitional support, and then went our own way. And life happens to people. And then unfortunately, the CEO needed to take personal leave. And so the organization was in the midst, they had purchased the property as you mentioned, and they were in the midst of building a new kitchen and running a capital campaign. And so they reached back out to see if I was available. I happened to have wrapped up a different engagement 2 weeks before. And silly me thought, I have some time to rest. And
it doesn't exist in the nonprofit world.
Exist.
I think all three of us
It doesn't exist. And also we're a team of 12, and we do carry a lot of clients at one time. So rest is all relative anyway.
Yes.
But of course I couldn't say no. I knew the organization have a heart for what they do. They were in need, and at a time when, someone really needed to take time. And so it was a no-brainer to say yes. And I rejoined the organization back in late February. And I'm actually delighted to announce that we just hired a new CEO. So I was able to also help the board through that transition. And I will be winding down my time as interim just in the next few days here.
Very nice. And then you're on a vacation. You're headed out of town. So you got a lot of work to do here with the new year right ahead of us.
Yeah.
Do you want to... Are you ready to announce to the world who the new CEO is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You're welcome to do that.
Okay, we hired LaDon Sawyer, And LaDawn has a long history of leading services, social service, human service, senior service programs, has a background in gerontology, had been a former CEO of St. Luke's Home, a director of senior services at TMC previously, had worked at, recently left an executive position at Catholic Community Services. So very well poised, understands the community of providers and of businesses that serve and support not just seniors and people with disabilities, but folks who are going through medical issues, respite, rehabilitation, who need support, and their families as well. I mean, I think it's, again, really easy for us to forget that folks are connected to other people, and, you know, whether they have medical and dietary issues, or they're aging, or they're in recovery of some sort, there's lots of people around them that have supported them for years, or have tried to do the best that they could do for them, who also need some level of tertiary support, if you will. And I think that LaDawn really understands that and is already thinking about ways that we can continue to grow and serve the community.
Well, she sounds like a great asset.
Yeah, I
to
can't
the
wait for you to meet her.
organization. Oh, it'll be fun for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we've seen it impact, because we are one of the meal providers in the Northwest Tucson area and the Southern Pinal County. And so to be able to have, we freeze our meals so that we can deliver them further. We used to, when we had our kitchen, we'd have to deliver it within 45 minutes so the food was still hot. So that's been really handy. But I was thinking about what happens with us, because we are in a retirement community, a retirement state. We have a lot of clients whose children call us.
Yes.
So I'm sure it's the same. And I was thinking when we were talking about how you go online and order your food, and the menu is very simple to read and very easy. But I was thinking how I had to do some of that for my own mother when she lived in California. She eventually moved to Arizona. But for a long time, we could, I think even ordering food from the market and have it delivered. So I bet even children could get on your website and order food for their families, which is nice.
Absolutely. The other thing, Barbara, is that I think that the pandemic, I'd be interested in hearing what you have to say about this too, Jeff, but the pandemic really transformed what it means to be socially isolated or isolated, period, even if it's not socially. And some of that now is more by choice for some people. Also, all kinds of services erupted, if you will, to serve people at home. And so the landscape of how a nonprofit organization serves people now, delivers food, provides home-based services, provides virtual services, has been totally transformed in less than 5 years. And so I think that for so many of us, figuring out how to be responsive to continue to meet the need is really important, because people can be connected in different ways now than they were in 1970. Right? Isolation looks different, but it still affects people, and there are still ways that people need support, even in this day and age of high tech and virtual and DoorDash and Uber Eats and all these other kinds of things.
Yeah. What do you think, Jeff? Have you seen that in your line of business?
Certainly. So, when COVID hit for us, it was a huge impact on everything we do, right? It's a restaurant, and the Clubhouse is an intentional in-person community, and everything just shut down. And so, social isolation is maybe the most common symptom for somebody going through any sort of mental health struggle, right? It's the thing that happens when somebody is having any sort of mental health issue, is that the first thing they do is just isolate. And now this isolation wasn't even by choice. It was forced on them. And then it became the norm, right? It became the norm for so many people. So for us, and for, the Café, and really for the Clubhouse, it was about finding ways to connect. And those ways had always been there, right? We had Zoom, we had all of these, tools. We just hadn't been using them. So it was about figuring out how to use them in ways that were, safe, that were actually still respectful for the individuals who were on the other end of the line, right? And some of the things that we saw, this was kind of an unfortunate byproduct for mental health services, is that a lot of folks that were receiving things like therapy, they were actually able to get to their therapist more often, right? There were fewer quote unquote no-shows for doctor's appointments and therapy appointments because you could just hit a button and get online. But the other side of it, we'd hear stories of folks in our clubhouse who were doing therapy with another organization in a room with an abuser next door, right? Or just a father who they didn't want to know about what was going on in their life. And that's the really hard part. So we actually created space where we said, come to the clubhouse. If that therapist isn't offering anything other than, virtual appointments, come to the clubhouse. We'll give you a safe place where you can still have that virtual appointment, right? And we still do that to this day. There's still people that feel so comfortable in the clubhouse. They'll come there, they'll do their therapy session in one of our offices or in our conference room, and then they'll go about their clubhouse day. Right. So it's just that different kind of perspective around what isolation is and just that kind of downside part of it that we have to watch out for as well.
Yeah, that's a nice thing. And, I hadn't really thought of that. Looking back, that would make such sense. If you're home with your family and you need to talk to somebody, you can go in and close your door, but I don't know that you would ever feel secure that you can't hear the conversation.
Yeah, it's just a different space,
out in the
right?
hall.
Yeah, so there's unintended consequences. There's that increased access, which was amazing, but then that other worry or that other piece to it where you don't feel quite so secure.
It's nice to be on the other side of COVID, isn't it?
Oh, without a doubt.
And just take all those things we learned and I think all that innovation that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I think too that people have a lot of expectations. The world has changed so much, and even when, you may not have a lot, you may be down and out, you may need a lot of services, but you still have expectations for how those services can be offered in this day and age. And I think it can be easy for people to forget that when they think of social services and they think of people who might be less fortunate than they are, that or they just haven't been around social services that much, and maybe they donate or maybe they volunteer, now they want to do more. And I think it can be difficult for folks to remember that there's a lot of choices out there in the world for absolutely everything these days. And so by default, people expect that those choices are going to be available even as they try to access basic needs, food, services, and so forth. And so I think one of the opportunities for all of us in the sector is to continue to grow and evolve services so that they really are contemporary and meet the access needs of what people expect in life these days.
Sure. I think we've all kind of learned some of that. One of the things that we started right before, and I mean February of 2020, was we had architectural plans drawn because we're building a grocery store style food bank where people can come in and pick all their own food, self-select.
Nice.
And so with the same idea, if you need a gluten diet or whatever your cultural diet is, you can choose what you want to eat rather than be given what somebody wants to give you. And even when we reopened after drive-through for 2 years, we reopened the walk-in, and we had the board gave up their boardroom and we turned it into a big shopping area so they can at least come in and pick their own bakery and their breads and some things from a freezer and a refrigerator and some pantry, all the pantry staples. And then the volunteers are in the back, doing the frozen meats and kind of the USDA box and other things. So
That's great.
it was so well received. So we're excited to go to the next level.
It's awesome. It provides a certain level of agency that I think Jeff's point too allows people to, or gives them the space to step into a new reality if that's what they want.
Yeah. And
it's simple.
Sure.
We talk a lot about voice and choice, right? It's that our members should have both voice and choice so that they're the ones that are telling us what they want and how they want it. And then we're still giving them options, right? And that's really what we're trying to do with anything. And I think that's what you're doing with mobile meals as well, right? There's more menu items. You can choose how much you want. You can choose whether or not you want to allow somebody else to have a meal with you. Those sorts of things matter to people, and it allows people to be treated with the respect and dignity they deserve, right? Just because they're receiving social services doesn't mean they don't get or shouldn't have those same choices.
Sure. And that's something else that's changed a lot over the decades, isn't it?
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah, that whole dignity, respect. Oh, I totally agree. Thankfully, most people jumped on that train. That is important. Well, talking about volunteers, Jeff, what about you? Are there ways you can utilize volunteers so the community can help? I'm thinking about the thrift shop.
Yeah, so I would say if the community is helping, the thrift shop is a great way to go. We have a partnership right now with Buffalo Exchange, which is wonderful. So we get any of their clothes that they can't sell or they don't think they can sell, we'll sell those. That's why we have some just great fashions out there. But we get a ton of donations from community members and just some really great stuff that we can sell and go through. So that's one way. We often have volunteers come on holidays. We're always open on every holiday. The clubhouse is so that people have a place to go. So, we had just Christmas dinner the other day. And I think there was like 60 clubhouse members that showed up for that.
That's nice.
And it sounded amazing. I was in Phoenix, so I wasn't there, but I know it was a great meal provided by the Café for the most part. And there was several volunteers that came out for that. So, we have on our website an ability to sign up for that sort of thing if you're looking for volunteer opportunities or anything like that. And then the other big one I would say is that if you want to be involved is just come down and eat, right? And then you're part of our community. Come down and have a meal at the Café, see what we do on a daily basis, talk to our trainees when they come out and serve the menu, ask them about their experience. That's probably the best way that you can engage with what we do.
Sure. And they like to talk about their experience.
Yeah. And you get to eat great food, right?
Definitely. Yeah. How about mobile meals, Jennifer? Do volunteers drive the routes to deliver the food, or do you have staff do that? How do you utilize volunteers?
Yeah, volunteers have really been the lifeblood of mobile meals since our founding. We are only 8 employees right now. We're about 250 volunteers. So volunteers do drive the routes and deliver meals. And then we're also adding new volunteer opportunities now that we do have the kitchen. So soon we'll be offering opportunities for people to volunteer in the kitchen or with kitchen and delivery logistics on site, right? And then we are also starting an internship opportunity, and right now piloting it with a culinary program at Pima Community College, and then do look forward to expanding to broaden impact and also to bring into the fold folks who might be doing job training or I should say career training at other places in Southern Arizona.
Nice. And I was thinking of something you said, Jeff, about art, the art on the wall. And we hear a lot about art therapy and how that's so helpful. So you mentioned tips go into the jar for art supplies. So how do you spend donor dollars? Because you are Arizona tax credit qualified. So if somebody donates their tax credit to Coyote TaskForce, what do you do with that kind of money?
Well, it generally goes into just general funds, and we are going to use it for just about everything and anything. We are always, we just run the tightest of margins in terms of our budget, and so we're always looking for more support. It's not that much that we need to run our programs. $50 will support one trainee for a day, right? We can run on that. So if you're donating and you're thinking about that, $150 for a week will support somebody for that one week. And I would say, if you're looking for a larger donation, anything up to like around $1,500 almost guarantees that we're going to find somebody a job. Right. So
that's great.
Things like that. But then it's also those smaller donations. You have the opportunity when you are providing a tip that's a donation that goes right back to the trainees. And the art on the wall, it's essentially micro enterprise, right? It's another opportunity for individuals to see if they can actually make money doing that. And we have some amazing artists who sell things all the time and have art in other galleries. And so any of those opportunities exist. And I promise you, we don't let a single penny go to waste. We use it all. And we just love every single bit of donation that we can get.
And I have to say, one of the things I've been so impressed with in the nonprofit circle and in the philanthropy side of it is that, 20 years ago, funders wanted only to fund materials for programs. And then there was a nice shift that happened about 10 years ago where funders would say, okay, we recognize if you have the cafe and you have a clubhouse, you clearly need a building. You can't provide services without staff and building. So it's nice to see where even grant funders would fund money for rent and those kinds of things. When we write for grants, we often write for the things we know donors don't love to support, but I think it's always a good reminder to the public that, we can have the best trained staff and great professionals, but we still need to have a place to do the programming. And so there's always a lot. I think we all have so many different components to our budget.
Yeah.
So I hope you can get some
Yeah.
donors from that. And then also, I suppose, Mobile Meal, I would expect they'd be charitable qualified as well.
Absolutely. We are
Sure.
a QCO tax credit agency. Just a little plug about art. We don't sell art, but we did purchase the old El Indio restaurant. And you might remember that it had a mural on it. It's on the south side of town. And so unfortunately, the mural was beyond repair, and we did a lot of renovations to the building. So we decided to commission a new mural so that it could have a slightly different but contemporary and local feel. And so Jessica Gonzalez just finished painting the new mural on the front of the Mobile Meals building. So you get down to that area of town, please do check it out. It's gorgeous. So Mobile Meals, more than 90% of our income is from private sources, from individual donations, from foundation and corporate giving, and from some client fees. Client fees are minimal. The really over 80% is private philanthropic funding. So donations are really critical to our ability to serve. And as you mentioned, we are a state tax credit agency. I'm just going to do a shameless self-promotion. We have 2 more days until the end of the year.
That's okay.
Depending when this goes live. And of course, if you're a tax credit agency, right up until tax day, right? Yeah. So, 2 great organizations to consider, 3 great organizations to consider supporting if folks are listening.
And it is good. And I think the other thing is people might not really know that the tax credit changed this year. And it used to be $400 for a QCO, for a qualified charitable organization. And it went up to $421. And many of us have laughed because it used to be $400 and $800 for a couple. And now it's $421 and $821. Or, it didn't double. So you have to check with your accountant to double check. But it's great that we are bringing in more money this year and a little higher donations. So I know we can all use it. There's so many nonprofits in Tucson getting so much great work done. So hopefully you'll both find some listeners who can relate to what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And I think, do you have any special events coming up in the new year? How about you, Jeff?
No major events. We have a few new programs that have started. I haven't really mentioned. We have a new training program that we started. It's actually a grant funded through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. And we provide mental health first aid training to the community and QPR, which stands for Question, Persuade, and Refer, which is a suicide prevention training. And so it's available to anybody in the community. And it's all funded by the grants. And what we're really trying to do is just get the word out there that anybody can have those conversations around suicide, around mental health, and we give them the tools to do that. So we're really looking forward to that. We started it this last year, but now it's really getting going in this new year. And we have 3 more years on the grant cycle. We'll probably be able to continue it with other funds beyond that. So we're hoping that more community members start to get involved in that and start coming to those classes.
That's neat. We used to do some QPR work through a partnership. And I wonder, for our listeners, I think that would be a very cool staff team building project.
Absolutely.
People think about being individual and doing that, but lots of great team building through learning those skills and then sharing when they have an opportunity to use it.
Yeah, and some of those, the work setting is maybe that one space where you can notice things going wrong. And so, an actual employer who might be interested in doing this training, it's going to benefit everybody there, right? So if you're an employer out there thinking about this, having employees who recognize when someone else is in mental health crisis, that's invaluable. And so, maybe some employers might want to consider it as well.
Sure. Thank you for doing that. How about you, Jennifer? You have things coming up for mobile meals this year?
We're planning a grand reopening celebration, probably for some time in the spring. We did experience some construction delays, and then it just didn't seem like the right time to pull things together as the holidays drew near. So we're really excited about that. Looking forward to really showcasing our new space and place and services for folks.
Well, that will be fun with LaDawn in place, and then also with your new mural. I love the idea that that mural is going to be part of the general tour around Tucson when you want to see murals. So that's a neat thing to do for the community. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I think unless you guys have something else you want to add, I think we're coming up on the end of our time. And do you have any other things that you wish you had shared? You will after you walk out, perhaps, but
Right.
you guys are good.
Nothing that I can think of. No, I mean, it's been a pleasure to be here. I really appreciate it. And I would just say, again, if there's anybody out there who wants to know more about the cafe or the clubhouse, one of the easiest ways, you can come to our website and check it out. And also just come on down. Just come down and have lunch or come down and take a tour. We're always open and happy to talk about what we do.
Sure. Or look on their website and download the menu for their catering.
Absolutely.
And then I think it's kind of short notice for New Year's parties, but there's certainly all kinds of parties coming up in the spring. People celebrating the weather change, perhaps.
Yeah.
For those of us who are looking forward to the warmth, the return of the warmth.
And at Mobile Meals, I mean, first I want to thank you too for the opportunity to be on the show today. I had a great time. If folks are listening and are interested in our services, they can certainly go to our website, learn a little more. They can enroll there. If they need assistance or they have further questions, they can give us a call. We do offer services in English and in Spanish, and we have volunteers that are bilingual as well. So we do want to make sure that we can meet folks where they're at and provide the service that they need.
Very nice. Well, thank you both for joining us today, and have a wonderful, prosperous 2024.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.